Hello, everybody. This is Robin Rohit from Ibra College of Technology. Today, we are going to see a topic that has revolutionized the IT industry, a topic or an area which has been flourishing the IT industry or the world, or it has taken the world by storm. It's blockchain. Let's discuss about what is a blockchain and what are its various propositions and how it's been used. Let's see what a blockchain is, how do they work, what are the problems they solve, and how can they be used. What is a blockchain? It's a block, it's a group of block which is being connected through a chain. Now, what do these blocks contain? These blocks contain information. So, a blockchain is a chain of blocks which contains information. What is its purpose? It was designed basically by a group of researchers in the year 1991. It was intended for digital timestamp or to timestamp the documents and to make them digital. It was not effectively used at that point of time. So in the year 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto, a group or an individual who decided that I am going to use blockchain, and the first instance of it was the Bitcoin. So Bitcoin became the first blockchain. So what's a Bitcoin? A Bitcoin is a distributed ledger wherein it could solve the problems of the financial sector. Now, it's an open network or it's open to anyone. Data, but the beauty being, once a data is recorded, it can never be tampered with. What are the things that do exist in a block? A block is a combination of data, a hash value that is created based on the data, and the hash of the previous block which maintains the chain. Let's see what is a data. A data is an information that is being stored in that particular block. Now, this data depends on the type of the blockchain. Now, it can be storing a transaction or it could be storing any other information, but depending on the blockchain, the information gets stored. For example, for a transaction, the information about from who the transaction originated and to who it's supposed to be sent and the amount is being the information that's stored in the data. What is a hash, or what is basically a hash? A hash is a code which allows to detect a change in that particular block. Now if you see a hash, when there is a change in the data, it automatically changes the hash value as well. A hash is basically like a fingerprint. It's unique, and that's the beauty of the hash. So any change in the data in the block changes the hash value. That gives a secure chaining concept. The third one is the hash of the previous block. Now, in order to keep the chain intact, the hash value of the previous block is always stored in the next block so that it keeps the chain going. Now this creates the chain and it hence it's more secure and it makes the system secure. An example of a hash or a blockchain: imagine there are three blockchains, block 1, block 2 and block 3. Each block is going to have a hash value and a hash value that is generated which keeps the chain connected. So if you see, each has a hash and a previous hash block value. Now the previous hash block 6BQ, or the hash value that is generated by the block 2, becomes the hash value of its next block, so that this block 3 gets in chain with block number 2 because of this hash value. Now if you see, 6BQ is connected to the next block. The first block in a blockchain is always called as a genesis block because it's a starting point and its hash value being 0. Now let's see an example of a blockchain, how it works and what happens if an intruder comes into the blockchain. Now, when there is a block that is an intruder comes into the block, the hash value of the block changes. The hash value of the block changes, then the chain breaks. The hash value of a particular block, for example 6BQ, is being changed because there is an intruder who is in the block number 2. The new hash value that is generated is H62Y. Now, this 2 H62Y is a new hash value generated by the block number 2. Now, the hash value that was maintaining the chain was 6BQ1, which is at the block number 3. Now, because there is a change in the data that is in block 2, the chain gets broken. Now, since the chain is broken, the subsequent all the chains are also being broken. Now, in order to give more security to this, there is a new concept called as the proof of the work. So at this time wherein speed and processing capability of the computing is getting higher, sorry, a computer can recalculate the hashes of every block and then it can again claim the chain. So in order to make it much work better, or in order to solve this problem, they came out with a concept called as a proof of the work, which mitigates the problem of even if the blockchain is tampered by calculating the hashes and everything. What is a proof of concept? It's a mechanism, very simple, it's a mechanism that slows down the creation of the blocks. As you say, slow and steady wins a race. Now, what is a proof of concept? A proof of a concept is wherein a block is given 10 minutes to create its hash value or generate its hash value, and subsequently all the other hash value are generated by the other blocks that are connected to this particular block gives a consent. So how security is given to the blockchain? Security in blockchain is maintained using three concepts, wherein the first one is the hashing, which is using SHA algorithm, which is a cryptographic algorithm which is very secure and which is very difficult to break as of now. Now the second one is a proof of concept, and the third one, blockchain being a distributed network. Now how the distributed network is working, it's basically a peer-to-peer network where everybody is allowed to join. Now whenever a particular block wants to join a particular network, then the node has to be verified to make sure that everything is in order. The blockchain or the new block that wants to join the network is supposed to be added when a particular peer verifies that this particular block is good enough. Once every peer connected to that particular block says that okay, this node is good and it has been verified, and it declares that it's been verified, then only the node gets added. Otherwise the node becomes an orphan. So that means all the peer that are operating in this particular network has to give a consent. So that means they have to agree and that they are valid. If 50% of the P2P network is agreeing, then only the net block will be added to the network. More than 50%. What are the features of the blockchain? Capacity increased, better security, immutability, minting, faster settlement, and decentralized system are the features of the blockchain. Let's wrap up how the blockchain works. For example, someone requests a transaction. The transaction is being given to all the peers in the network. Now they validate the transaction. If all the networks or all the peer-to-peer networks validate this particular transaction, then the new block is added to the network, and then the transaction becomes complete. Now this is a case of a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency as well. So once they verify the transaction, it creates a block and the data is written into the ledger and the transaction is complete. There are four types of blockchain: private, public, consortium or federated, and the last one is the hybrid. What is a public blockchain? A public blockchain is an open network. It's permissionless network and it's an open source. It's kind of an open network wherein anybody can read and write data into the blockchain and the data is accessible to all. There is no particular controller who owns this particular network. So it's a shared network which is transparent and it's democratic and the cost being minimal. Bitcoin is an example of a public blockchain. What is a private blockchain? A private blockchain is a network, it's a permission network wherein it has to be an invitation has to be given, then only the chain can be, or the private blockchain is based on the invitation. So that means anybody who wants to access to the network has to get a prior permission. Without a prior permission, you cannot enter into the network. Now, different levels of access and information can be encrypted and given for the commercialization. The advantage being here the data handling is simplified because it's inside an institution. The compliance is also automated because it again comes into a private organization. So that's private blockchain for you. There are few differences between the private and the public blockchain. A public blockchain is accessible by anyone, and as I defined before, it's anyone and it's a single organization, and it is decentralized in public blockchain, and in private it is partially decentralized. Public is slow because everybody has access to everybody else. Private, it's a small group of people who have access to the major information, so it's controlled. It's permissionless in public, permission oriented in private. It's low cost in public, high cost in private. The read and write access is for everyone in the public domain, and in the private it is to a single organization, and the immutability is full here and it's partial in the private. The third kind of network or the blockchain is a consortium or a federated blockchain. So what's a consortium or a federated blockchain? It's again a permission network. It's but the difference being between the public and the federated is public is decentralized whereas federated is centralized network. The control is given to only few determined domains and they control the whole network or the blockchain. They are faster because only few have it's restricted rather, and it is faster, it's scales higher, and it offers more transaction processing. Very simple to say, it's a intranet of the 1990s. So it's a private network. The fourth one being the hybrid network, which is the beauty of the revolutionized world, wherein it's a mix of both private and public blockchain. The organizations have better control when they want to achieve. So it's having the advantage of the private and the advantages of the public as well. Same goes for the disadvantages as well. Now, in the coming time, they developed a new technology called as the smart contract. What's a smart contract? So in order to make the blockchain more secure, it's a small program designed to store the blockchain information and it's exchange information across through a third party source. Let's take a small example of how the smart contracts are working. Now, for example, a seller wants to sell a house and a buyer wants to buy it. They agree on certain things and the contract is being conceived or the contract is created. The contract receives assets and the contract distributes the assets. And all this information is stored in the registry. The ownership becomes undisputed because you are involving a third party. The clearing of the settlement is undisputed, and then you're going to digitize the land deed. So because it uses bitwise currency as well, bitcoins as well, the digital transaction becomes more secure and more viable. What are the applications of blockchain? It's a huge applications now because everywhere they are using blockchain. Digital IDs, Internet of Things, IoTs, Bitcoin, Internet, real estate, votings, payment, you name it, healthcare, law enforcement, music, banking. Applications of blockchain is plenty. So that completes a brief introduction on what is blockchain and how it can be benefited. Thank you very much.